Hey, good evening, everybody. I just want to say this is great to see all you folks here. This is our second official ARPA meeting, and we took notes and videotaped the first one, or video recorded the first one. Tammy had some notes, and it is on the town YouTube website. YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch that. What has formulated over the last few months is a lot of people have been asking me questions about ARPA, especially Ms. McCall. She's asked me a lot of questions. And what I was hoping was that people had a good understanding of what the final rule was, which didn't come out until April, and that any application or anything that on a go forward basis honors those rules. As the ARPA funds administrator for the town, I'm responsible to follow those rules and make sure that submissions to the fund are clear and indeed part of the COVID-19 relief fund. My name is Brenda Churchill. I function as the ARPA funds administrator for this meeting, and we have John West, who's running the audio video with us, and we have a guest online. There's one. TOB is town of Bakersfield, and what we're going to ask you to do is come forward to present your idea for funding, request for funding. And I'm going to only ask two questions. Did you read the final rule? And is your request applicable to that final rule? And you can briefly explain to us what it is. We're going to take all the applications in, and we're going to form a citizens committee that'll hear all of these proposals. And hopefully they're in a form that we can easily relate and read to people them. But I don't care if we get 50 people, 60 people that want to come in and debate whether these are valid or not. Eventually, what we're going to wind up with is a consensus to present them to the select board. We will give them a yay, and the select board will have the final word on whether the funding is going to go through. We'll do an appeal. If you don't think that was the correct thing, we can go back and do an appeal. We hope to have somebody from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns with us when we start to go through these applications to make sure that the best understanding is that we're meeting the rules and I don't have to go to jail after we do all this, which will be fun. So we're waiting for the final check from the Treasury Department, which will put us somewhere in the neighborhood of $390,000. There's been a lot of projects that have been floated to me, but I said if it isn't written down, it isn't valid yet. So we're going to do several of these, probably some odd times, odd days, odd weeks, and just hopefully we'll catch as many people as possible. Your mission is to word of mouth, let people know. Just say, hey, town has money. If you meet the rule 6 or the final rule from the Treasury, then we may be able to do something. I've got some good examples. I've even approached some people, say, hey, I understand you did this. Do you know that's covered under the final rules? So they didn't. They may or may not be here, but this is not the last meeting. There should be at least 4 or 5. I'm going to say as many as 6 before we meet together as a big committee. Any questions? Yep. That is a great question. We actually had something formulated very early on where John diligently went through the first bunch of rules that came out and put together an application. And what we ran into was that if we did it that way, we had to ask some really critical questions. Have you applied for any other funds that are available through either state or federal agencies? We had to get into a whole reporting period. We had to look at a ton of stuff that really would have probably bogged somebody down for hours and hours and hours. As much as I like to get paid for work that I do, I couldn't see the value in that. And so when the final rule finally came out after 3 iterations, 4 iterations, 3 or 4 iterations, it kind of got narrowed down to do whatever you want and follow the rules. So we're doing this in a way that is probably duplicated in some towns, but may not be duplicated in others. Yep.
That's a great question.
Yeah, because frankly, we didn't think they were going to move much more than twice, and now we've got a ruling that was finalized in April of this year.
I think what the question we had to the league was similar to that, because a lot of towns have already used this funding. They used it for infrastructure, doing roads and equipment they needed for the town. They used it. And, at that time, they were within the rules. So, you can't hold someone against it if you're within the rules in that time frame and spent the funding was what. the
And then
answer was.
change the rules. So whatever we go with is dated on the rules as of April 20. I think it was April 28th was the final rules, but I don't quote me on the date. But that's still a great question. Could they change? Absolutely. Well, I'd like to have a citizens committee review these and go over them, and you'll be welcome back to talk about your proposal in depth if that's necessary. But I'd like to have that wrapped up by Thanksgiving, and then be able to present it in December to the select board with hopefully a final ruling in January. Disbursements have been traditionally on town meeting date or on or around town meeting date for anything that was allocated. But I will also go with whatever the precedent is for the town for doing that. But we're treading on ground that has no rules, so to speak. So, yeah, well, and the nice part of this being recorded is I get to be held to those words that I've just spoken. So we'll work with that. Great question, though. Thanks. Anybody else? Okay. Should we take Rosalie first because she's patiently waiting there? What do you think, Rosalie? Can you hear me?
Welcome back.
Yeah, hang on. We've had intermittent issues both at the town meetings and other recordings, so we may have to figure that out. Rosalie, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay. I know I saw your lips moving, so I know you were talking before, but I apologize. We
That's okay.
We lost our channel.
I'm sitting in on it, because I'd like to know what's going on. I have read the rules. I have actually spoke with other agencies and stuff. Of course, naturally, I do work with another agency, working with people. So I'm very much aware of what's going on, but how many applications do you have? Over 100 so far?
3,000 or 4,000. No, I'm just kidding. You're looking
know.
at the people. You're looking at the people in the room, or maybe you're not looking at the people in the room.
Can't see anybody. Can't see anybody.
We have, I think, about a half a dozen folks that'll have proposals tonight that they're going to submit. We ask that they just answer 2 questions and then they can do a presentation on what they're looking for. We're not making any decisions tonight, but we'll instead convene a Bakersfield Citizen Council to do these probably sometime in November, with recommendations going to the select board in December, and hopefully decisions and payouts in the new year. So
Anybody that's anybody on the committee, are they eligible to put a proposal in, or are they kind of excluded out because?
No, thanks. Everybody can put a proposal in. We may not have you vote on your specific proposal, but I think that anybody who is here in this room is invited back to be part of the citizen committee to review these requests, and certainly you're included in that. I know you want to know what's going on.
Does the town have a proposal that they're applying for these
Well,
funds?
There's several. One is to do a water tank monitoring system that is more accurate, that will allow the pump. It's bouncing.
Welcome back again.
There we go. So what was the question again?
Does the town have?
Oh, the town has at least one that I know of, and Mac is forwarding that after talking to a consultant about a float system in the big water tank to allow it to be filled when it's low and not exceed a certain amount. So right now it's a timer, and that may or may not give us an accurate run, or it may be running the pump too much. We don't know. We're hoping that they have a very comprehensive proposal for that, and that it won't be too expensive to implement or install, which I think is critical to the infrastructure for the town and the fire department and the hydrants. So it'd be really good to make sure that that's on the proposal. I don't know if Mac knew about this meeting, but I know we've talked about it, and he's had a consultant come in, so they have a proposal. As far as other things the town is thinking about doing,
Yeah, Mac has me, he asked me to bring up the grader that's over 31 years old, the tractor that's over 25 years old, and another one was the town records we have are stored in a safe here, and they're not, that's the only records we have. If something happens to them, they're gone. And other towns have used the funds towards doing electronic records or a backup of the records so that we have something in case something happens to the physical records here.
Which is problematic in itself because even electronic records are not secure or safe and can be corrupted, and there's no longevity or time of how long records are good for.
Let's see, it is true, but it's a backup in
Yep,
case
it's a
our
backup.
physical ones go. So
Yeah, we're a match away from losing all our town records. Yes, you are.
yes. Yeah, they, four of the projects fall under, or 3 to 4 projects fall under infrastructure. You can wiggle to get the fourth one under infrastructure as well with the records.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
couldn't bring people in.
It's twofold. It's twofold thing here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it'll be in our written form, a proposal in written form. And we'll have the same citizens committee reviewing those as your own proposals. So that's a great question, Nikki, by the way. Thanks.
So I do have another question if
Oh.
I may.
Sorry, Rosalie, hang on. You know, when you guys talk, they can't hear. You got to come up and hit the button for the mic.
Yeah, we can't
apologize.
hear.
Apologize, Rosalie. So just hit the button for the mic real quick. It says push.
Hi, Kathy.
And if
Green light will come on when you push
if
it.
for the record, when you do that, just your name for the
Push,
record.
push. There you go. Now your name.
Catherine Rosenberg, and I'm representing the Fairfield Community Center. No, my question before the proposal was that not on this proposal, I realized that we did lose some funding the year that we weren't able to have the Jig in the Valley. Would that be something that qualified?
Yep.
And can
For
I add
COVID.
that at some point to this? Because
I think that might be a separate proposal with regard to a specific funding amount that is attributed to an event that you couldn't do. I think that would be a perfect example of what should be presented.
Okay, good.
Are you also presenting this to Fairfield? Because they have their own funds.
We have presented to Fairfield. They have,
Do we want to get into this right now or because
It's
I
just-
know
it's
the
just a
answer to that question.
part of
I know the
proposal.
answer to the question.
Right, yes, they've already determined that they will give us about 60,000.
Okay.
And I can explain, that ties in with what we're asking here is about 20.
Uh-huh.
And our services, about a third of our services go to Bakersfield residents, and about a third of our volunteers are Bakersfield residents. So that's where we are. And the request I have today supplements what Fairfield is willing to do.
Excellent.
So, and they've
Excellent.
already committed to 4 out of 5
Okay.
of the things we asked.
Okay.
So it's
That's almost a
exciting.
full presentation with stuff that you want to give us. So
Yep.
we'll check number 1 off the off of that. And all of this is okay to copy. Okay. And if you give Tam a copy, we'll put that in there. She did have number 1, by the way. So from the deli counter, she had number 1.
Yeah, so yes, I read the information on the link that you put on front page forum.
Yep.
Lots of answers to questions. And yes, we feel that this fits. Basically, it is what we're requesting is for capital improvements to the facility. What we realized during COVID was that our facility was inadequate to provide the amount of space we needed. We managed, but there were times where we were allowing only one person in the building at a time because we had a very tight space to provide meals. We were doing takeout meals and produce takeouts, as well as the food shelf. And so what we're proposing to do is we have the west end of our building is chopped up into several small built rooms. And we're going to open that space up considerably. And there is a tiny little kitchen in the back of that space. And what we want to do is bring that kitchen up to the point where it can function as a kitchen. So putting in a range with the hood over, putting in an actual functioning work sink is important. We have made a cold storage space, and that's where we keep most of our produce that we provide to folks every Tuesday and once a month on a Friday. And right next to that is this little tiny kitchen with a tiny normal house-sized kitchen or sink. So we need to upgrade that sink so it functions better for handling the produce. We get lots of produce from like Healthy Roots and local folks, and that a lot of produce goes out every Tuesday. One of the things that we have are raised beds outside gardens, and they're available to anybody that wants to pick. We use them to supplement our produce that we give out every Tuesday, and also as a teaching tool for the kids programs that we do. We have a summer camp that's 6 weeks long. This year we're dealing with like 45 kids per day. It's great. They're all outside as much as absolutely possible. But these raised beds are part of what they tend. And we have normally a program over spring break for kids. And they planted the gardens this year. Gardens are falling apart. So we're asking for some funds to really put some cedar raised beds, and also to make a handicap accessible raised bed as one of the pieces. We have a section of our building that has been used as a daycare and is currently being used by Fairfield School for their preschool. And there is a play area outside. And the play area, the Fairfield has committed to buying the new equipment that we need. What we're asking from Bakersfield is to help us put good fencing in with a self-closing gate. So that would finish that. And part of the thing is, it is a small space. And again, with COVID, we really needed to be able to give kids more space. And so, yeah, so it's those three main things: the kitchen renovation, the raised garden beds, and the preschool daycare fence. Questions?
You may want to turn your mic on.
I don't have any questions. Thank you. And I am familiar with the facility, which is also a benefit from my knowledge standpoint. And we ask you if you want to come back when we convene the Citizens Committee to maybe eloquently sell it to them as well. But this is, like I said, this is preliminary. We're taking as many applications as we can actually to gauge the amount of work and how many people want to come. So again, hoping you all want to come and be part of that decision-making process.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Rosenberg with a U, B-U-R-G.
E.
Thank you.
E-R-G. I will turn the button off.
There you go. Thank you. Does number 2 want to let Rosalie go? Because she's chomping at the bit there. No, you don't have a proposal? Okay.
She said she was listening.
Oh, listening. She's on a listening tour. So number 2. If you didn't get a number, that's okay.
We'll get to you.
We'll get there, yeah. We promise.
So I'm Linda McCall.
Is it on?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm Gary Foote, president of the Historical Society.
And we're here because we're interested in getting funds for the Historical Society. We submitted a written application back in April. That has not changed, except that we've made our first payment on that loan. And so there's a new loan balance. And Gary and his wife co-signed on that loan. And he's here to explain why he felt that was necessary. I don't know if you remember all the particulars of that situation, that we had the Halloween storm. And unlike the road crew that knew right off what their damages were, we did not, because it didn't hit us until the frost in the next spring. And along with that frost came COVID. And so the first event that we had in 2020 was the town meeting luncheon at our building. The next event that we would have had, fundraiser, would have been the Sugar on the Snow party that we had to cancel due to COVID. Then everything after that. Big fundraiser for us was always the 4th of July celebration. That didn't happen. And actually, it was good that it didn't happen, because the damage that caused to our building because of the frost created a safety hazard for anybody that would have been around the back of that building. So with the school closed, kids weren't going over there to slide. So we didn't have to worry about that wall collapsing, with kids over there. And when we did the construction, that was last year. Excellent weather for doing that. It was dry, kind of hot, but it was dry. So it was excellent time for them to work over there. Construction was going on Main Street. That was a good distraction. We didn't have a lot of curious people over there crawling in under the building and stuff. So that was all good. But the problem with the whole project was that we applied for grants. The first grant applications were due in 2020. In the fall of 2020, there was no vaccine. So structural engineers were not going to come because they hadn't been vaccinated. So the first 2 applications that we submitted, one for 20,000, one for 50,000, no structural engineers report could go in with them. And we got turned down on both. We were told that we were close, but not having that report made us non-competitive. And the next application wasn't due until later in 2021, 22. And we were then able to get the structural engineers, Jenna at Preservation Trust, old 1772 foundation, that our application arrived on time and that our structural engineers report would follow. At that time, we had 2 structural engineers reports. Both of them said, when you start jacking up the addition on that back building, and that project at that time was 50,000. Said, when you start doing that, that gable is going to collapse, because it's going to jar that just enough, and that brick on that back gable was bulging. And so it behooved us, for the safety of the folks that we had coming to work on it, to include that in the project. And that added another 30,000
Right.
to that project. And so when we got all done, we did what we could for fundraising. We had some excellent donors. And that grant was $10,000. Didn't bring us up to where we needed to be. And so Gary and his wife stepped up and said they would loan us the 40,000 that we needed.
The town.
Oh,
The town.
yes, the town. Trustees of public funds, but they wanted a co-signer, and Gary and Alice signed, co-signed.
It's a lot of Christmas trees.
Yeah, one of the reasons we did that was the fact that we were told that there was money coming up from Washington to perhaps overtake this. Because we found out at a later date that we can't get any other grants because of the loan that we have. We can't do anything else. And basically, what we got, if that loan is paid off to the town can loan it to somebody else that not looking for grants or anything. So anyway, so it's a win-win for situation.
Okay. And
We have a lot of other things that we gotta do to the building. And one of it is to make it so it's a year round, so for people to use the community, because there's no other community building.
I don't have your report next to me, but what was the total amount that you were looking for?
40,000.
Cool.
I read it. I read your report.
Thank you.
Well, I have read them, but I just don't have it right here.
Didn't say
No.
close.
Gary, just to be clear, and I think it said it in the report, but the funds that you utilized were borrowed from the town, right? Is that who,
Yes.
Yeah.
and you just
Trustees of
put
public
your
funds.
note against it
Co-signed.
kind of thing?
If something happened to Alice or I, it would come due
On demand.
on demand.
Good to
Thank you.
know.
It's important that the town keeps them healthy.
Yeah.
I see that.
It really, that isn't the real reason that we want to do away with the law. It's because we want to get some grants. That's the
Right.
big thing right there. It's not because,
And just to recap, the loan as it exists now precludes you from going after grants, right? You can't go.
We can go, but it takes us out of the
Intention.
competition.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
As they're saying,
You got the money.
how are you gonna pay this back? This loan that you've got,
Gotcha.
you've got a debt load.
It's
of
like
40.
a credit report.
Yes,
Gotcha. Good, thank you.
Thank you so much.
okay.
Yep.
very good.
And again, I would ask anybody here in the room, please come back when we convene the, whatever we're going to call it, the ARPA Funds Council Committee, Decision Committee, I don't care, but whatever, yeah, come on back. So we'll certainly let people know.
Okay. Thanks for keeping me straight.
Number 3.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna, that's number 2.
You're number 2.
Hang on, we got another number 2.
Number 2.
Hang on, we got one part, 2A we're on, 2B.
My backup guy on this is Lyle
Be or
Willie.
not to be. There he is.
No, he didn't leave.
He didn't leave.
It was nice to meet you in person again, Lyle.
Okay.
Quiet.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes.
That's okay.
And
I'm Lyle Willie.
I'm sorry, your last name was?
Willie.
Thank you.
Willey.
EY. Oh, I almost misspelled that. Thanks again.
So what we're asking for is funds to help with repairs on the Hearst House. The Hearst House is a municipal building, part of Bakersfield's infrastructure. It does have historic value, even though it's not on the historic registry. There was plans to do that. Our Nancy Hunt was going to do that, but as you know, she passed with a lot of things on her to-do list. And this was one of them. So Lyle has put together a group of volunteers and given us a list of materials needed and a price list of what it would cost to do this. And I must say that it's very reasonable. If we were to take this into a grant program, the cost of engineers, the contractors, sure,
Thanks.
times that by 10 at least. And this is to stabilize that first house.
So there's no engineer's report on this or anything. This is what's visible. If you go into the Hearst house, the medium beam is completely collapsed. So the floor goes like this. There actually is no floor per se in the left-hand side of the Hearst house. The integrity of that doesn't, because of the construction, doesn't affect right now, doesn't affect the outer walls, but eventually it's going to be irreparable from that perspective. And then just the more cosmetics, the windows, the outside painting, keeping that up, and painting the roof. It's just very basic things that will keep that building in repair for a while longer until other decisions can be made in other funding sources. This is imperative in order to save the building. This is a kind of a minimum work to bring that into state.
What condition is the roof in?
Good. Yep, if it's painted now, and the outside paint, I had a painting contractor look at it. It's in good condition. It's painted, within the last 20 years. Windows are destroyed on the backside. These are easily repaired at this point. Just putting a new floor where the garden equipment, the cemetery equipment is placed will create a safe floor for storing that kind of.
Right now, Maria parks her
Power.
zero turn more in that garage and the floor is like.
What's under the floor? What's supporting the floor beams, by the way? Is it just dirt, concrete?
Well, it's set on the foundation and blocks in the middle, but again, that center beam is completely gone.
Yeah.
So
I should have had you get my wood for my deck because they're pretty great prices for wood even right now. Your
Yeah, that was
15%
gonna-
is a nice piece because it's gonna be,
Can I ask you if you anticipate prices going up or down? Not that,
that's the $1,000 and the 15%.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
I'm anticipating going to go down, but yeah,
I hope.
this is a COVID project. We know what directions they have been going.
I'm just gonna note something that you may or may not have known. We had leftover plywood from putting protection on the windows in the Brigham Academy. I would invite you to talk to Mac. And see what's still available there, because
That's gypsum board and it's like half inch. I want to use that for the floor. I want to use that for the.
oh
floor.
yeah, no, I'm talking about the windows.
Oh, Oh, I
Just to-
thought you
just
wanted to
keep the
replace
weather.
it
No,
with
to keep the
something.
weather out, but also there may be other needs for plywood, so.
Yeah.
We have,
Broken window theory.
You want to know the broken window? Do you know the broken window theory is if you don't fix a window when it's broke, you'll have more broken windows. But if you fix a broken window every time you have one, there won't be other ones.
I like that. Do they do that? Do they use that in New York City?
That's free. That's from urban.
Yeah, I thought it was urban planning.
That's it.
Did that. Cool.
Oh,
So
$5,491.88.
Give or
$500.
give or take a penny or two.
$5,500.
Thanks, Lon.
So, and this is the cemetery commission that's responsible for the
All right.
repair and maintenance of that building in the last 2 years because of COVID, we haven't been able to get done as they should. And if you noticed, we have a group of volunteers that did the garden in the center of the park and also the
Looks nice.
walkway around.
Yeah, we were
Yeah,
in on the
just,
discussion for the stones.
Restore some pride in Bakersfield, and Lyle was instrumental in that project.
Couldn't
also.
tell because I think he wore a hat. while
He's
we were
part
doing
of
that.
it, yes.
He was part of it.
Yeah, he's humble.
Okay.
Thank you
Cool.
both.
Thanks.
Number 3. Thank you.
Cool. Please state your name.
So I'm Cheryl DeRue Irwin, and I am the library director of H.F. Brigham Free Library.
Nikki Cribb, I'm the current chair of the Board of Trustees.
Spider picture got me.
Sorry. So we actually have 2 projects for the Brigham Free Library. The first project is the cleanup and removal of the current flooring that covers the floor of the library. The original flooring for the library is asbestos tile. And at one point, it was covered with indoor-outdoor carpeting that was glued down to it. I've been the library director there for 10 years now. And over the last 5 to 6 years, every time they come to clean the carpet, they say, this could be the last time.
Right.
This could be the last time. And actually, the last time, he said it was the last time because I had to sign a waiver in case anything should happen. One of the things that was pointed out to me is that before he even started, he felt areas of the carpeting and felt that there was a dampness to the carpeting that just doesn't seem to go away. So our proposal includes the cost of renting from the MyBox company, the storage units. They did tell me when I spoke with them on the phone that there is like a weight kind of thing that you can put into them safely that will hold for a month, weatherproofing and stuff. But I'm not really sure how much all our books and bookcases weigh.
Right.
So we may end up needing 2. So I've included the cost for 2 in our total amount. The cost of the carpet and asbestos removal cleanup is included there also.